I'm going to be telling you two short stories. And the first story is when Ganesha came to the earth. And I'll be showing you some pictures along the way. A long time ago, when Shiva was fighting for the gods, Goddess Parvati was alone at home. She needed somebody to guard the house when she was taking a bath. Unable to think of an alternative, she used her powers to create a son and give birth to him. Parvati was delighted to see the boy. She hugged him with affection. He was greatly pleased to see his mother. She named him Ganesh. Parvati said, "I want to take my bath. You should guard the entrance. Never allow anyone inside." Ganesh said, "Yes, mother. I will not allow anyone inside." A few minutes later, Lord Shiva came to the place, and he was surprised to see the young boy. Shiva was confronted by Ganesh, unknown to him. "Who are you?" asked Shiva. Ganesh, "I am the son of Mother Parvati." Shiva laughs, but Ganesh did not bother about it. Ganesh says, "Please go away from here. I do not want anyone to disturb my mother." Shiva says, "You go away. I have to go inside." But Ganesh bars Shiva from going inside. Ganesh says, "You cannot go inside." And Shiva says, "How dare you do this to me? Do you know with whom you are talking to?" And Ganesh says, "Who you are is of no importance to me. My mother's instructions are more important. She has forbidden anyone from entering." And Shiva says, "You have got to leave, or you will pay with your life." And Ganesh, "I will guard my mother's house, even if I have to die for it." Just then, two of Shiva's Bahutta Ganas attendants approach Shiva. They see the Lord waiting outside, stopped by a boy. "Gana, hey you pygmy, get away from here." Ganesh responds, "You demon, first you get away from here." The Gana says, "Hey, how dare you call me a demon?" And Ganesh says, "How dare you call me a pygmy?" And the Gana, "You talk too much. I will cut off your tongue." And Ganesh sticks out his tongue at him. "Cut it if you can." The Gana was shocked. "Hey, I warn you, better keep your mouth shut and get lost." And Ganesh responds, "I warn you, you will come to harm if you stay here." And the Gana says, "Hey, shut up, don't talk too much." Shiva, I am the husband of Parvati. No one has any right to stop me from going into my house. Do you follow? Ganesh, I do follow, my lord, but I cannot let you inside, as my mother has instructed me not to allow anyone inside. And Shiva says, "Throw him away." Gana tries to get a hold of Ganesh, but Ganesh strikes him with his hand. So powerful is the impact that Gana is thrown away to the nearby mountain. The first Gana was astonished to see the power of the little boy. He throws his weapon against Ganesh. Ganesh takes a hold of it and throws it back at him. It hits the Gana in the forehead and he falls down flat. Ganesh, ha 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 ha. The other Gana comes running to attack Ganesh. He brings a big rock and he throws it at Ganesh. Ganesh punches the rock and it breaks into smithereens. The fight continues, and in the course of time, Shiva has to come to the help of the attendants. He pounces upon Ganesh and cuts off his head. Ganesh crashes to the ground. A few moments later, Parvati comes out and is shocked to find her son Ganesh lying on the ground. Oh no, what happened to Ganesh? Parvati sees Ganesh lying down. How can I bear this? My lord, how could you have done this to my son? All of you get away from here. I want my son back. I want him alive. Parvati is overcome with grief and anger. Shiva is very much worried to see her in this condition. Parvati, please don't worry. It is my mistake. He did not allow me inside. Parvati says, so what? It was my instruction. He did not disobey my words. All of you are cunning. You have killed an innocent boy. I need my son back at any cost. Parvati is sorrowful. Shiva wants to do something to make Parvati happy. Parvati, I will do something. Keep cool. Parvati was in tears. Her grief knew no bounds. Shiva sought to please her by promising to bring the boy back to life. But alas, his head could not be found. A quick fix was sought, and it was decided that the first available head would be used to bring the boy back to life. Shiva said to the goddess, fetch the head of anyone sleeping facing the north. The goddess, yes, my lord. The goddess found a sleeping elephant and brought its head, which was then attached to the body of the boy. Shiva thus restored Ganesha back to life. Ganesh woke up as if from sleep, but now he had an elephant's head. Parvati blessed him. She was happy to see her son, little Ganesh, back. But my lord, doesn't he look different? And Shiva said, this new form of Ganesh will define him. The elephant head indicates fidelity, intelligence, and discriminative power. Ganesh's tusk indicates his ability to overcome all forms of dualism. The wide ears denote wisdom, ability to listen to people who seek help, and to reflect on spiritual truth. Ears are used to gain knowledge. The large ears indicate that when God is known, all knowledge is known. His curved trunk indicates intellectual strength, the ability to discriminate between the real and unreal. His big stomach indicates his power of creation. Are you happy now? Asked Shiva. And Parvati says, Ganesha, you are my eldest son, and you are the son of this world. And Shiva says, I bless you, my son. But Parvati wanted greater importance to be given to Ganesh. She willed that he should be worshipped before every enterprise, as he would have the power to rid them of all obstacles. Ganesh thus came to be regarded by everyone as the remover of all obstacles. He came to be known as Vigneshwara, the Lord who removes hindrances on the path of devotees who worship him. Parvati, my lord, you should bestow him with boons. And Shiva says, surely everyone will worship Ganesh and invoke his name before the undertaking of any venture. Ganesh will be the leader of all my troops. And Parvati says, my lord, what are you going to name him? Shiva says, I name him Ganapati. Pati means leader, and Ganapati means leader of all the Ganas. The Ganas took the blessings of Shiva and Parvati. Ganesha's head symbolizes the Atman of the soul, which is the ultimate reality of all existence. His human body signifies Maya, the earthly existence of all human beings. The elephant head denotes wisdom, and its trunk represents Om, the sound symbol of cosmic reality. In his upper right hand, Ganesha holds a goad, which helps him propel mankind forward on the eternal path and remove all obstacles from the way. The noose in Ganesha's left hand is a gentle implement to noose all difficulties. And that's the end of the first story. And the second story, one day, Parvati would be granted a special fruit by a sage that would grant he who consumed it a great power. Parvati would attempt to split the fruit in half to share with her sons, but the sage explained that in doing so, the fruit would lose its power. Only if it was consumed by one entity would it grant its eater its powers. Unsure of which son to give the fruit to, Shiva devised a contest where the brothers would have to contemplate the winner. Unsure of which son to give the fruit to, Shiva devised a contest where the brothers would have to compete. The winner would be the recipient of the fruit. The contest would consist of circumventing the world 3 times, and whoever did so first would be the winner. Wasting no time, Kartikeya summoned his peacock mount and dashed off to circumvent the world. But Ganesha, being the pot-bellied, stocky being that he was, he knew he could not hope to keep up with Kartikeya. Furthermore, Kartikeya and his peacock were far more suited for traveling across the harsh terrain. Ganesha had a mouse for a mount and didn't have the build to go about running the way Kartikeya could. So he came up with a genius or tricky idea. He began to circle his parents 3 times, and when asked what he was doing, Ganesha explained that he was circling his world. So touched by his gesture, Shiva and Parvati gave Ganesha the fruit. In this sense, wisdom triumphs over strength. And that's the end of the second story. And I'll give it over to Bob.
Oh, thanks, PJ. Those are probably the 2 critical stories about Ganesha. And it kind of shows why his one of the most popular deities in India. Among his other things, he seems to always bring a kind of joy and playfulness to whatever is taking place, whether it be an obstacle or its removal. Might mention that when I went to India with some friends, my wife, I was surprised to find so many variations of stories that I was familiar with. And at a certain point, I began to think that for every village, there's a different version of the story. So that's just something to think about. If you hear different versions or something, there, because there are many, many, many versions. And I was also pleased that when we got off the airplane and went into the airport in Chennai, it was so reassuring to walk in and find the statue of Ganesha. And then, you felt like, oh yeah, I've actually arrived in India. Okay, now I have several quotations from Ratna Ma Navaratnam, who is a scholar, and she comes from a line of Guru Chelas. That actually, when I read her book, which is called AUM, Om Ganesha, the peace of God, it seems just like something you would read if you were reading from an author of theosophy. But she had a dream in which Ganesha appeared, and she felt like she got a fundamental insight into the nature of reality. So I periodically chose quotes from her because she had direct experience, which is what we all want. So she says, Ganesha is the symbol of man's link with the divine and of the latent flame of enlightenment hidden within the human mind and heart. An invocation to Ganapati is man's attempt to ignite this light and rid himself from the thraldom of the senses and fleeting sensation. So, since we have invoked Ganapati, we are trying to ignite this light. Okay. She also says it is the irresistible conviction of the Hindu that through the discernment of a distinct symbol of the infinite, man can attain the infinite itself. What's a very interesting statement when we think about all the deities in the Hindu pantheon, that, or any other symbol that we might think of, that through a contemplation of that symbol, one can attain the infinite itself. And Truth put on the link to this program the quote from the Aquarian Almanac from Claude de Saint-Martin. Every spirit produces its own form according to the essence of its thought. So that in a way is what, in those stories that Vijay told, that we're trying to figure out what is the spirit there behind that. And HBB in the glossary connects Ganesha with Thoth Hermes. Is our direct link with the divine, and its translation into the world of form. So connects the realm of noumena with the realm of form.
I'm so sorry. Are you moving through your slides?
Yeah, why?
We're not seeing you moving through your slides. We're still on the one that says Ganesha is the symbol of man's link. And I'm wondering if you need to hit play,
There you go.
I'll try again.
There it is.
Did this come up?
Yes.
That
Now
it is irresistible?
Yes. Yeah, you're on the right one. Okay, I'll quit talking. So,
Well, no, let me know, because I don't know. I'm
Well,
on
Robert,
this one.
I don't think you're in play, you're not in the play mode. Do you want to be in the play mode of the PowerPoint?
up there
Well,
in the,
it's
Yeah.
not PowerPoint. It's
Oh,
and I push play. It says play.
wow, won't do anything.
okay.
And we'll see what happens. I'll try something else if this doesn't work.
All right.
Yep.
And apparently, he's presenting various obstacles for me to overcome that I'm unfamiliar with. I've never had those problems before.
Mhm.
So I don't know what's going on. But the interesting thing about this, or some of the interesting things, you'll see that he often is not considered married, but when he is, he has these two consorts. This is Riddhi and this is Siddhi. Riddhi is the goddess of wealth and resourcefulness, and Siddhi, you know, is the various powers or energies that are needed by an aspirant to reach enlightenment. And almost always you'll find that, you know, the Shaivite symbol of the Trisula or the trident of Shiva on his forehead. And so this immediately connects him with his father. And the little dot here is like the Shiva Shakti, or the energy of Parvati, which is the Shakti of Shiva. And like Vijay was talking about, this syllable Om is frequently found at the root of his trunk. And it's that sound, which this Parvati here, that is kind of like the Daivi Prakriti, the light of the Logos, and it symbolically travels from the abstract to the concrete, analogously to sound passing through the elephant's nose. Now, these are various titles that that Vijay mentioned. Vinayaka is without a father. You'll, like, I think there's a Vinayaka Upanishad because he was born from his mother alone. And Siddhidatta is not only giver of success, but is the source of the cities. Lambodara, pendant bellied, is interesting because if you think of the three qualities, this Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, Shiva is connected with Tamas, or with inertia. And it's thought that the rotund nature of Ganesha is connected with the force of gravity and stability. And of course, the elephant itself standing is a symbol of stability because of its weight and stature. And he mentioned about the Lambakarna, the long-eared, which Ganesha can hear the voice of his worshipers, but it's also a symbol of the disciples' ability to hear the sacred sound. And we'll talk a bit later about the Akadanta. You know, when we talk about Shiva's ganas, this shows you how happy people are to see Shiva's ganas. And Ganapati is the Lord of the ganas. Now, these are all kinds of ghouls and goblins and ghosts and a lot of characters that hang out at the cremation grounds to chase away anybody that would disturb the meditations of Shiva. But in other stories, these ganas go all the way up to Mount Kailash, to exalted beings and devas. And I think we went through that. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, he who is engaged in the performance of yoga, who has subdued his senses, and who has concentrated his mind in me, Krishna, such, oh, it should say yogin, sorry, all the cities stand ready to serve. Because the cities have such a powerful connection with Ganesha as the helper of the aspirant on the path to enlightenment or wisdom, and also to be able to serve humanity. And there's a funny story, like we tend to separate the deities, but when you look at all the stories, every deity is the supreme, because there is only the supreme. So every deity ultimately ends up being the supreme being, power or reality. And then it gets mixed up with every other being. And there's that funny story about a connection between Ganesha and Krishna, because Krishna's mother had asked Ganesha to watch over Krishna and try and keep his behavior, keep him in good behavior for a whole month, which Ganesha did. So Krishna was on good behavior. And then on Ganesh Chaturthi, where his mother was performing all the devotional duties on that day, she had a bunch of sweets prepared for Ganesha, which were very tempting to Krishna. But he was warned not to touch them until after the ceremonies. But at a certain point, when his mother came back, the sweets were gone. So Ganesha claimed that, Krishna claimed that a horde of mice with Ganesha on the biggest one had come through and taken all the sweets that had been offered. Of course, his mother didn't really believe that. She started beating him, but Ganesha opened up his mouth, and Krishna opened up his mouth and she saw Ganesha inside him. Now, I just tell that story because it shows you how all the deities get mixed up with one another. One's within the other. Now, there is also this story about, another story about Ganesha picking up a bunch of sweets from all the temples, all the temple offerings to Ganesha. And he had gotten really rotund from eating all of these sweets. And on his way home, he comes upon a snake that scares his mouth, and he ends up falling off. And in that process, the moon laughs at him. And that's when he cursed the moon. And the upshot of that is that on Ganesh Chaturthi, you're not supposed to look at the moon. It will have a negative influence on you, which to me means that one's common monastic nature, ignore that, at least on Ganesh Chaturthi. But the snake that you'll see sometimes wrapped around him, tied around him, Ganesha scooped up all the sweets and put them back in his stomach and used the snake to bind all of his belly and hold them in. So in one sense, you could look at that as, the snake is a symbol of cycles, of being able to retain what we've learned in each cycle, each day, each year, each lifetime, as well as another connection with the cities, which are often symbolized as serpents. Now, Vijay made the fine story about how Ganesha, by circling his parents, who are the center of the universe, he had accomplished the maximum amount of work with minimum effort versus trying to run around the earth. And that is another quality that is associated with the symbol of Ganesha, is the ability to see to the essential and avoid inessentials. And in a way, the noose that he carries to pull away the delusions and remove the inessential, and remove the impediments. And the mouse also is a symbol of omnipresence, where mouse can get in anywhere and knows always after, knows whenever there's food and wealth. And the Ganesha himself knows no impediment. And oh yeah, we talked about that. Now this is a quote from an article on the elephant that was lifted from the Theosophy Trust website. They have a bunch of symbol articles on that Theosophy Trust, all of which don't give what you'd say a definitive thing, but they give you a field for contemplation. And this is one of, a quote from that article on the elephant. It is said in Hindu tradition that Parvati, the wife of Shiva and mother of Ganesha, saw the syllable Om. Her very glancing at it transformed the sacred word into two coupling elephants, which gave birth to Ganesha, and then resumed the form of the Om. Thus Ganesha, the elephant head and human body, possessed the Om as his syllable. Therefore, as Ganapati, he is considered the Lord of categories and order and identifiable with Brihaspati, the teacher of the gods and master of the creative word. So that's, this translation in some ways is symbolized in the story of him writing or sitting down the Mahabharata at the dictation of Vyasa. Is that me?
No. Let me fix that.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
By setting down the word in symbolic and categorical form, he made accessible to man the richly allegorical but also systematically ordered means by which worshipers could come to worship the God who rises from within. This is why it is believed that his power and cleverness allow him to remove all obstacles as he stands guarding the shrine of his father Shiva. The disciple approaches him praying, "O Ganesha, prepare for us the way, remove for us the obstructions in life's true path." And, the story is that when he was partway through the dictation by Vyasa of the Mahabharata, his stylus broke, and then he immediately broke his trunk off and used that to finish writing it. And which, is another way that of indicating the resourcefulness and the sacrifices that Ganesha symbolizes to accomplish one's dharma. So his head, the elephant head, is definitely connected with the Om. In the Ganapati Upanishad, it is written of Ganesha, "Thou abidest in the Muladhara as thy seat, in filling the Mula Prakriti as the Jiva, immanent in the triad of bodies. Thou alone art the sole creator, sustainer, and annihilator of everything, through being of the character of Brahma, Vishnu, and Rudra." So there again, you see the curious mixing up of deities. And it is one of the functions of Ganesha is to guard the root chakra, the Muladhara chakra, or wheel of energy that ascends as one practices yoga. And it's said to be what resides in this square here, the square symbolizing the earth, and this being the mantra associated with the Muladhara chakra, that Devi or Parvati resides in the energy of Kundalini here. And that chakra is also associated with elimination. And the voice of the silence makes it clear that any consideration of Kundalini requires elimination and purification. In reference to sensing the golden light of spirit, the voice declares, "But, O disciple, unless the flesh is passive, the head cool, the soul is firm and pure as flaming diamond, the radiance will not reach the chamber, its sunlight will not warm the heart, nor will the mystic sounds of the Akashic heights reach the ear, however eager at the initial stage." In the footnotes, HPB explains that the chamber is the heart, Brahmapuri. Brahmapuri just means the city of Brahma, wherein resides Kundalini, one of the mystic yogi powers. It is Buddhi considered as an active instead of a passive principle. It is an electro-spiritual force, a creative power which, when aroused into action, can as easily kill as it can create. Now, this always struck me as a serious warning to any kind of effort to arouse Kundalini alone, rather than through the various paths of service and discipline associated with Dharma. And then in Ratnama Navaratam indicates about the efficacy of all mantras. It's tremendous. So this Om Sri Ganesha Nama, it's a potent mantra, like all others that have been revealed by the Supreme Being through the wisdom, vision, and experience of illuminated sages and seers, then and now. Now, I don't know if this is going to work, but I was going to play a little bit of this variation on the mantra. And I tried to link through Keynote with a whole bunch of YouTube videos that sing this or chant this mantra, but none of them would connect with it. The only one that would connect is this one. And it would seem kind of strange because it's not a classical Hindu mantra. It's more like a George Harrison bhajan. But what gets me about it, though, is that the devotional element of these people that I think would be favorable to Ganesh. So we'll play just a minute or so of this and draw it to a close. See if it works. So they were devotional.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Vijay.
You're welcome.
Anybody who would like to speak or raise a question or anything like that, make a comment, please unmute yourself. While people are doing that, I wanted to ask you guys, it says in the Gita in the 9th chapter that those who devote themselves to the gods go to the gods. Those who worship the Pitris go to the Pitris. Those who worship the evil spirits go to the evil spirits. But those who worship me come unto me. What do you guys think worship is? In other words, there was that quote that Truth included in the flyer that says, from Claude de Saint-Germain, every spirit produces its own form according to the essence of its thought. Anyway, hopefully that can cohere as a question. What is worship? What happens?
Well, as far,
Sorry, go ahead.
oh, I just thought I guess worship, from my understanding, would be a form of adoration. And in Krishna's words, I think he's talking about the supreme. I mean, you could worship the supreme by any name, but it really doesn't have any name. So I think it would be a kind of adoration of the highest that is possible for you to conceive. I mean, some people can only conceive of God in an anthropomorphic form, but others in a very abstract form. So Krishna also says, in whatever way men approach me, in that way do I assist them. So I think it's what you love, what you adore, would be worship, in my understanding.
Thank you, Judy. Vijay, you were about to.
Yeah, to me, worshiping is kind of sharing the experience with a higher power. Like when we begin something, we invoke Ganesh to bless us on our journey. It's just like having that presence with us as we journey through this physical life.
Thank you. Yeah, I noticed that when, I'll just be quick here. I noticed that when like every obstacle possible presented itself to Bob just now, but then when he made that joke about, wow, that's Ganesha, and all of a sudden he just said the word Ganesha, and then all of a sudden the thing started to flow.
Yeah.
Monica?
Yes, it was about the question of worship. I once heard a monk talk about how he was visiting a place and was in an elevator, an elevator that was crowded with people. And the person who was talking the loudest was clearly going to be like the last person to get off. And it seemed that the person was complaining for each floor that a person got off of, from beginning to the end of his ride up to his destination. And I remember, I'll never forget the monk saying that he realized that this was this man's worship, whether he realized it or not. So what he was expressing was what our full focus on is it takes on the form of worship just by nature of the fact that we're so intently focused on it. So whatever the action or the thought or the speech may be, wherever it's directed, that's going to end up being our focus, which is very much what the Gita says.
Thank you, Monica. Yeah, that would make sense because devote themselves to the gods, that's not necessarily the entire universe like Judy was talking about. That's just the gods. Or to the Pitris, those are specialized beings, right?
Yeah.
Like you say, it's just whatever the level of focus is. Yeah, that makes sense. But I think the love and adoration thing would be
The highest.
yeah, that would tie in with that too. In other words, where your passion is, I guess, you know. So which level? Bob?
Anthony has his hand up.
Yes, hi. Just wanted to congratulate you two gentlemen for that wonderful presentation. And you hadn't touched upon so many different stories, perhaps in different areas. Well, I heard that, you know, the reason for Ganesha's huge stomach and what makes him so lovable and approachable and most loved of the gods in the Hindu pantheon, that huge stomach of his, aside from being lovable, he also takes on the poisons of his devotees, the karmas, and transmutes them. And another thing about when you say before any enterprise invoking his name, that's true. If before anyone chants the Mahalakshmi Ashtakam, which is the beautiful hymn to Goddess Lakshmi, Ganesha is always invoked before that, and they're always depicted together in the artistic depictions. Of course, you know, Lakshmi would be just another form of poverty, you know, but in a different guise. So he's usually next to her, and next to Lakshmi would be Saraswati. But these are the artistic depictions vary with, you know, with whomever is drawing them. But I just thought I would contribute that. Thank you for listening.
We have Maluka first, and then Kirk, and then Marlon.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I know this is a very interesting time, and especially coincided with the 9/11 and Ganesh. Hopefully we'll take the obstacle out of our path. Lovely presentation. You clarified several things that I always had doubt, but I have one more question. Can you talk more about the elephant and its symbology? Because I know it's sacred, and you know, they're being killed and because they want the marfil, what it's called. And what is the consequences of that, and what is the symbology of the elephant really spiritually?
Vijay, we have the benefit of having Kirk Radin here, who's been doing research in this area. Maybe he could share his wisdom with us in this area.
Yeah. One thing of Ganesh, since he has an animal head, it kind of denotes to the harmony that humans have with animals. But if Kirk has something to add.
Well, I don't know about wisdom, but we did just recently give a presentation on the wisdom of elephants. And we had an opportunity to go over some of the recent studies that have been done over the last 15 years that confirmed a lot of the sort of folklore that has been, traditionally told over, centuries in Asian countries and African countries regarding elephants and their wisdom, their intelligence, their capacity for memory, and so on. And it's interesting that a lot of the qualities that are associated with Ganesha are found in living elephants as well. Like one of the aspects is that's recently just been discovered again in the last 10, 12 years, is their capacity to hear at great distances and to hear sounds that are completely inaudible to the human ear. And they're also their ability, the vast majority of their communication in terms of their herd occurs at a level of sound, it's called infrasound, that cannot be detected by the human ear. And has been documented as occurring over as much as a 6-mile distance between elephants. And that also their capacity for hearing is not just through the ear, but through the feet and through the trunk in contact with the ground. And that this infrasound also passes through solid objects, material objects, much faster than it does through the air. And then, you know, it's almost, it's hard to tell research-wise whether, you know, for example, their capacity to anticipate a storm before it occurs. And, you know, huge herds altering their migration pattern in relation to a storm that has not yet happened. And then the storm happens and they're taking advantage of it in terms of access to water and so on. So, but there's many aspects like that, that, you know, that have confirmed their intelligence, their level of memory. You know, one of the stories told about memory is their capacity to recall, to map and recall water holes, for example, that they haven't been to for many years, and to find them again. To not just find them, but to know exactly where they are, to make beelines towards them, you know, when they need to. Yeah, but I was also going to raise a question, if I may, because one of the things that is said about Ganesha is that, yes, he's the remover of obstacles, but he's also places obstacles in our path. And it reminds me of that wonderful statement, I think it's from Crosby, that, you know, we should regard the obstacles or challenges that karma puts in our way as not only what we deserve, but what we desire, because it's bringing to us those lessons that we have not yet learned, and which by learning those lessons, we become better able to serve. So I wonder if you could comment on that, as Ganesha is also placing obstacles in our way. Yeah.
I bet you, Vijay, what do you think?
Yes, I think that in this life we could perhaps have our own selfish motives and we lose track of the greater goal. But Ganesh helps bring us back to the path of the eternal man, realizing a higher goal. And those obstacles are exactly the lesson that we need to overcome. And once those are like the realization of the lesson is also the removal of the obstacle in my that I find.
Yeah, I one of the examples of the story of Ganesh writing the Mahabharata, writing down the dictation, you know, he had a problem and then he immediately resolved it and moved on. So it could have been a big obstacle, you know, like theoretically, I could have got really upset because the doggone keynote wouldn't work like it did before I shared screen, right? I mean, why won't you work? You know, you get really upset at technology. Or one can, I do, because I just, you know, there's some little thing that you don't know about that gets in your way. But that does develop patience, right? And patience and perseverance, which, you know, as one gets to be a senior citizen and beyond when appreciates the value of patience and perseverance in the pursuit of service and enlightenment.
Yeah, I think the quote is that there is no sacrifice too great for the noble cause.
Marlon's had a question, and then you, Donna. You have to unmute, Marlon.
Hello there.
Well, right now we have Marlon.
I got it, yeah. I don't know if this will help, Kirk, but this is a poem by Jalaluddin Rumi. It says, an empty mirror and your worst destructive habits, when they are held up to each other, that's when the real making begins. That's what art and crafting are. A tailor needs a torn garment to practice his expertise. The trunks of trees must be cut and cut again so they can be used for fine carpentry. Your doctor must have a broken leg to doctor. Your defects are the ways that glory gets manifested. Whoever sees clearly what is diseased in himself begins to gallop on the way. There is nothing worse than thinking you are well enough. More than anything, self-complacency blocks the workmanship. So there's a sense in which we need these obstacles, if you will, or opportunities to learn more about the divine and the glory of being a human being. But I also wanted to mention, perhaps, in another observation, someone asked about the elephant, and I think it's interesting that the elephant is known for its compassion. They take care of their young. They take care of their dead. And that the ears are really, and the nose are the predominant visual things of the aspects of the elephant. And in Buddhism, they have a curious statement that, and this is very general, that it's not vision that is the primary sense, but hearing. Hearing has no blockages. Hearing has no blockages. And so I think of Aristotle, and Aristotle he's connected, he's actually, if you will, perhaps trapped by the visual world. He can characterize things, he can classify things, but it's all what we see. And I think that's the logos that most people are attracted to. And HPB talks about that as being actually the second logos. The first logos, I think, might be more related to the inner Dionysian aspect of being, which is, for example, when Oedipus blinds himself, he was caught in a world of appearances, and he was making false judgments, wrong judgments. When he blinds himself, he's now destined to be helped by other people to get around. He must recognize other people, his unity with other people. And his awareness now is of intuition. It is of perhaps as HPB points out, the no name of the absolute, because it's prior to any name that we give it. It's prior to any organized logos that we give it. And that there might be the voice of silence that HPB is talking about. That realization of the real primary first logos, not the second logos of visual things and walking around in this world, but the primary logos that's more abstract, more fluid, more capable of making new combinations of things.
Arlen, thank you very much for that.
I'm sorry.
But no, you're taking us, you're doing what Ganesh does, is to kind of take us from the known to the unknown, aren't you? So I appreciate that. Are there any other, oh, Donna, right?
I think the time is up. So a lot of my thoughts were incorporated or brought up by others. Especially appreciated VJ's comments on the idea of karma, because I was wondering about the fact that Ganesh is the Lord of new beginnings. And when you think of karma, you know, the idea that the end is in the beginning. And the idea that motive is essential to everything we do. Those were just some thoughts I had about the connection of Ganesh to the idea of karma. But as I said, VJ just gave a beautiful, some beautiful comments in that direction. But our time is up, so I'll.
Yeah. Thank you very much, all of you, for asking the wonderful questions, and especially to Vijay and Robert. Beautiful storytelling, Vijay. And it just reminds me of those days when we used to.
Can I?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, please.
Hi there. Okay, I'm Uma Swaminathan. I live very close to, I come from very close to the region in Adyar in Chennai in India. And of course, you know, I'm very involved in the Philosophical Society. And of course, you know, having heard all of this, I don't know if, you know, I'm sorry I can't, but I don't know if you already discussed about the little story of Shiva and Parvati and
We did.
Shiva
We did.
and two sons.
Yeah, we
And
did.
You did, okay. It had to do with the universe being within yourself.
Yes.
And being that it is within yourself. Ganesha proved that that's what it is. And therefore, you know, whatever we do, we know that, you know, we need to be able to accomplish whatever is present now in the present, and not look back into the past. So, you know, I mean, if I had more time, but anyway, since I came in late, I'm really sorry about that. Maybe next time, you know, I can talk a little bit more about it.
Uma, thank you very much for joining us so much. And what you bring out is that what we think is outside is really within us. And I think that's kind of a big part of this whole message of the idea of Ganesh. Thank you a lot for joining us, Uma. And what these Aquarian Almanac presentations seem to be doing is we're exploring different dimensions of different spiritual systems throughout the globe, and how really theosophical that they are, and how universal they are. So what we thought was particular is really universal. That, to me, somehow that resonates with the idea of what we thought was outside is really within, you know. So thank you all very much for coming, and please come if you would like to. I did find my almanac, and to our presentation for next week, and it's called Self-Magnetization. Thank you all very much, and especially for our presenters and for your wonderful questions.